Your motto is that struggling is a part of the process. Why do you find this so important?
That's a learning process. No one just comes with the ability, I can do everything correct. You need to remind people every time. This is a process of learning.
Those who are just a couple years behind you in your career, what's a key piece of advice that you would have for that person?
To be the kind and unique person you are. It's great to have role models, but at the end, you should.
Hey, welcome to this week's episode of Power Talks. My name is Griffin, the host of the Citizen Developer channel, and today I am joined by special guest Bülent Altinsoy. Now, Bülent, your motto is that struggling is a part of the process. I kind of just wanted to ask you, could you elaborate on this? Why do you feel this way, and why do you embody this and find this so important?
Yeah, first of all, thank you for having me on your show, Griffin. It's an honor. Yeah, this motto is quite simple. I'm working at Avanade, a company, since nearly 14 years now, and since a couple of years also as a trainer, um, and especially for Power Platform in the last years. And when I'm teaching our employees, these are mostly beginners, and the beginners are mostly uncertain in their steps, what to do. And if they do mistakes, especially if they're new in the company, they feel like, uh-oh, what have I done, and so on. And they've just been hard in the process, like, oh, I should not have done this mistakes and so on. And that's why I'm coming always in and keep trying away the pressure of them and say, hey, don't worry about this. You know, we are here in an environment of trust where you can make these mistakes. And then I'm mostly saying this quote, which I think became famous at Avanade, like struggling is part of the process because no one just comes with the ability, I can do everything correct from the beginning. So that's a learning process. But you need to remind people every time. This is a process of learning. Some are gifted and it takes not so much time till you learn this, but some takes a little bit longer. So struggling is really something which we all struggle. We struggled from the beginning with walking first. We tried to crawl, then we tried to walk, then we tried to speak, right? So in that case, it's absolutely normal, but we need to be reminded again and again. And that's why I'm saying this. Don't worry about if it doesn't work the first time or maybe even the second time. You will get there. That's why I'm saying this to the people.
Sure. We've had a lot of I've had a lot of guests on the show as well that have just talked about like the transferable skills that they have, like where they develop these, a previous career or in their childhood growing up or playing sports, or that a lot of times it might feel like when you're, say you're transitioning into a career within the Power Platform or within consulting or, you know, within low code development, whatever that may be, that it can feel like you're starting from scratch or with nothing and that you need to learn everything.
Yeah.
And so another just piece of encouragement, I guess, to anybody out there, like if you have 10 years of experience at this job, you have 10 years of experience in that industry, that you can carry over into now software development for people in that industry, or the soft skills of team leadership, or, empathy or communication. And so, yeah, I guess some encouragement there. I wanted to ask you as well before we can circle back on that. I mean, for those who are just, say, a couple years behind you in your career, I mean, what's a key piece of advice that you would have for that person to help them to continue to grow?
Um, First of all, if people, for example, coming from the university and starting new in a job or maybe career changes, they think about, okay, that last career somehow didn't work out for me. I need some kind of a change. Obviously, if you're starting from zero, you can't be there like an experienced one. It's the same like for me in this journey in the community. I have also started at the beginning of the year. I feel like I'm started from zero, and I've met so many people who've been in this community now for so long, and we shouldn't do the mistake like, oh, you're so advanced. How can I reach your stage or your level? At the end, which I'm encouraging everyone is, it's great to have role models, but at the end, you should every time develop yourself to be the kind and unique person you are. So if someone just says you are so far advanced, I say you can take some aspects of what I'm doing and you like that. But at the end, I'm encouraging everyone to develop his or her own style because that makes you unique and the one at the end where you're also proud of yourself. So if someone tries to copy me, well, that's an honor to me, but that's also funny. But at the end, you should not copy. You should be create a new you out of it. And the Power Platform is really the best place in technology, if you ask me, because you can reach so much, or can you can do so much already with low code and even no code in the beginning. You know, just designing a Power App and just place some buttons, some pictures, some yeah, pictures, images, or whatever. And then at the end, you can click on a play button and maybe something is working, maybe it doesn't work. You know, struggling is part of the process. So in that case, you will start your learning journey. The most important part of that is if you're feeling good in this, if you're feeling familiar, you like what you're doing, then you're on the right path. And sometimes in the very first beginning, when you struggle, maybe things are not working out. This is where I come in and encourage people. You know, if you have fallen, you might fail again, or you will fall again a couple of times, but you will also, you know, stand up and you will try it again. And I've seen so many people struggling in the beginning, but then I've just seen in their career what kind of amazing transformations they've just did. And now they are a valuable part of the company, but also in the community. I've seen also struggling in the beginning and now seeing how people are just, you know, growing and making an impact, which makes me personally very proud to see this. And everyone at the end tells his or her own story, you know, and based on the experiences we have.
How would you that sparked a question because I would agree that like people need to kind of find their secret sauce, their flavor of like what you know their journey looks like or what their batch of skills looks like. I mean, how do you recommend someone kind of finds their way in their trying to think of the right word, I guess. But you're talking about I wouldn't don't copy what I do, right? Because I'm me, and so it's like how does somebody find out who they are in their career? I guess.
For when we take Power Platform as an example, you know, we just make an overview, just go over what the Power Platform is offering, and then we can just see in which area you might have interest, you would like to invest more time. You know, if you're a guy, you want just to display more or less information, manipulate information, then Power Apps is your thing. If you're more the guy like, I wish things would go a little bit more automated so I don't need to do so much, then maybe Power Automate is your tool. And if you're the reporting guy, then obviously it's Power BI. So if you just go to all that aspect, then we can just find out what might fit to you. But sometimes you don't find the solution. You know, it also we need to distinguish between are you more a functional person or are you more a technical person? You know, are you like more to discuss with clients about processes, or are you like more I just leave me alone? You know, I just, you know what, I'm a developer, you know, a dark room, no sunshine, all that kind of stuff, and I just only want to code. Maybe this is your thing. You know? And maybe we just don't find anything of that. And then maybe we just need to look and search what might fit. Mostly you have some hobbies, and sometimes you just don't know what your hobby is. So I didn't know, for example, that the community could be my hobby. So I've seen a couple of times people like, wow, you have work and then you have maybe family and then you do community stuff. And where does this all time fits in? So if you consider everything as work, then you will not be happy. Then that's definitely not something for you. But if you have fun, and my fun is talking to you, Griffin, for example, or talking to others about the same passion we just developed, then I don't feel this as work. I feel this as something which is fun. And then I also see the creation of others. And that's also another way of look in the community what people have created and something if you see something which you really like oh wow, I want to try this out. So this could be also another way of identify what you really like. And to be honest, sometimes it happens that you don't like anything of that. But then it's not too late. Then you just need to find something else, which makes fun.
Sure. Yeah. I one of the I guess I want to transition the conversation a little bit, but not really. Kind of talking about continuing to build others up. I mean, you are involved in some capacity to like training others, whether it's at your company or through your community and your newsletter. And I want to get into all those different things. But I mean, you feel that it's important to train others up to be able to replace you one day, was the language you had used in getting to know you. I mean, how do you go about mentoring them and with such a like a future focused mindset, I guess? Like what does this process look like of building others up to replace you?
I want to give them more or less the end goal where I am. And if the people like that, that they're saying, oh, I like this idea where I can end up, maybe on a higher position or on a position which just gives you more power, maybe more money, whatever the incentives is which drives you at the end. Um, this is what I did with my young team. So I got a young team a couple of weeks ago, and the first thing what I just told to them is, I will give you all my knowledge. I pass all my knowledge in a way that you will replace me one day. So because I've seen so many times in my career that that kind of knowledge transfer never happened to me or to others, and then suddenly the person is away. And if person leaves company, then the knowledge is also away. Yeah, if it's not been documented properly. And this is what I don't want. I don't want that a company is suffering from that kind of lack. And also, to be honest, I will not want to stay in the same position for a couple of years because it's getting also boring for me. So I also want to have some kind of goal where I can end up at next. But if I'm getting new people and I want to show you today I'm staying here, and if you like this, then I help you to grow that you can also be there as well. But if it's training, obviously, then it's like I can give you the first steps, the first entrance, but you have to manage the things on your own. So I can't hold you all the time your hands because then I would holding a lot of hands.
Yeah.
But if it's my team, then I want to give them the outlook of this is where you can at the end come and end up. And if you like this, then I help you because it can happen that you're sick or you've been out for maternal leave or whatever, and then you need to be replaced for a while. And it's always great if someone can replace you. And so that's why. And this is what I like about the community. So here's no one like this is a competition. I'm not sharing my knowledge with you because you're working for a different company. Here, everyone is really very helpful and sharing and caring. And this is what I learned during this year as well. And that helped also personally me, again, to see things differently, as I have seen that, for example, last year.
Yeah. So how come I'm just so you know, I don't disagree with anything you just said. But I'm thinking I'm listening to this and this guy just told me everything that makes me valuable, I need to share it with other people. And make other people just as valuable as me. I mean, why do you think that this is not a healthy way of thinking or a bad habit? Like I feel like people could sometimes feel like, oh no, I learned this or I have these skills. I need to hold on to them so that I can continue to make myself more valuable. Why do you feel like the inverse of that, actually sharing what you know, actually makes you more valuable than just holding on to it? Because that seems counterintuitive. Does that make sense? Like what I'm saying?
Makes absolutely sense because it is so deep in us human, that like we all are egocentric. At the end, we are just looking for ourselves, for our own careers and so on. That's why the things what we just seeing in the community with that sharing is caring is completely different as I have just seen in other social networks, but also partly in the company. Of course, you can think like I'm valuable when I have special knowledge no one else has, because that maybe secures my workplace or that makes me special. So I will always ask, and maybe I get a more salary increases or something like this. But to be honest, this exists more or less everywhere where I have been. Yeah, and this in the community is different, and that's why living the values of the community partly in the company isn't that bad because then you open trust. And when you open trust, then people are getting more open and then help each other again. So currently, especially if you just look into the politics, what's going on outside, everyone currently is more closed, more focused on themselves because the politics at the moment doesn't help. They don't help in the yes side. So I'm very unhappy for you that you have the old president back again. But the situation here in Germany is also not better. And I can tell you, this is currently a process which is ongoing everywhere. So, what if everyone tries to keep everything for themselves and not sharing anymore? So, what would be the end result of that? The end result would that I'm not trusting you anymore. I'm only, sharing something with you if you give me the amount of value, and I come maybe from a different time as the others. So I'm 47 years old. So I've been born, raised in the 80s and 90s, and I can tell you my parents come from Turkey. And this was a very lovely country when I visited because everyone was sharing. The situation there has changed dramatically. Everyone is so much into money and not about helping each other anymore that you don't want to live in this country anymore because everyone is against everyone. And if you come to that situation, what happens if there's an emergency, and maybe this is dramatic. You're in a burning house, and I'm not looking at that example with that nice dog with a head. He said it's okay when my house is burning down. It's okay. So you might want help, and in that extreme situation, mostly the humanity just comes out, and you want to help, so no one is just suffering. And uh, what we don't need to have that extreme situations. We can have that situation before. So that means if you live this value before, and if you live that as, I don't want to call myself a role model, but if you live that and show that to the others, then others, especially learners in your training, see this and adapt this one. So the younger people adapt this much more as the ones who are older, and then you can just build something up again, trust and some. And if people saying at the end, I learned from you more how you share information, how you care about the people. This is much more valuable to me as someone just tells me, I learned today how I can create a Power App, for example. Because a Power App is not a lesson for life, but this value living is more a lesson for life. And uh, as I said, I come from the 80s, 90s. There it was, for example, absolutely normal that you have trained people in the youth in soccer. I have to say soccer because when I say football, no one understands
That's
or doesn't
okay.
right? So, but today everyone just wants, if you want to play for a club, you want to have money, pay me, otherwise I will not do this. So in capitalism, it's okay. You want to pay for everything what you're offering, but then in the end, the humanity is just not be there anymore. And this is a value. At the end, we're all human beings, right? And socializing is very important. And if this doesn't exist anymore, because we always want, even for, hey, you want to hug me? I want money for this. Come on, give it to me. Yeah? That doesn't work. So that's why I want to live this value of the community. That's why I am in the community. If the community would have been like the other communities I've just seen before, I wouldn't have stayed here.
Hey, if you are finding this video impactful or insightful, be sure to like and subscribe. But more importantly, if you are wanting to learn more about the Microsoft Power Platform, then you are going to want to check out the completely free self-paced course that has all of the hand-picked content directly from me as the first link down in the description down below. This is going to teach you everything you need to know about the Power Platform to get started and pass your first few Microsoft certifications. I can honestly say that as a Power Platform consultant myself, that I love what I do, and I don't think many people in today's day and age can say that. If you are wanting to learn more, as I mentioned, be sure to check out the first link in the description down below to get in direct contact and connect with me. All right, let's get back to the conversation. Kind of taking it back to now, like, okay, now employee training, or like maybe like getting into the nitty gritty of like what that looks like and how you're able to do that effectively. I mean, what are some, I guess maybe what are some key lessons that you've learned about effective training or ineffective training, and like what makes a good trainer? I guess. Like, does that question make sense? What I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Oh
Okay.
yeah, of course that's a
Okay.
question. Everyone has to listen to me, I'm
Yeah.
very strict. This is the way of how, of course, everything works out, right? What makes a good trainer? First of all, it helps if you just know what you're talking about. So this is very helpful. So if you can answer questions, if that kind of technical question comes in directions which you just haven't seen before, and then you think about, okay, now I have my knowledge, so I can answer this question. Sometimes you even can't answer the question, but you just give the people the feeling of, let me look this up and I can answer that later. So I, having knowledge is helpful. What is more helpful is having empathy for the people and understand the group you're just currently training. That means, let me give you an example. I'm having a level 100 training course, a beginner course. Sometimes I do have some more advanced people there. So, and I can tell a funny story because this is more or less how my journey in the community started. So, you had Angeliki Patiawa in your course, in your session as well, and we worked both in the same company. And I gave every year I give at least one CRM bootcamp training, so a PL 200 certification training to skill people up. And then she was also in my course as well. And but I didn't stalk people. I'm very bad in getting information who comes to my course. So I was there, and everyone in this course was level 100, but she was advanced. She asked me advanced questions. I'm thinking all the time, why are you asking that kind of question? This is a level which I'm not really used to. And then at the end, I had to say, we can discuss about that kind of questions maybe later because I see already in the others they are confused a bit. So it's very important for you as a trainer to see who is keeping up with you and who don't. And if I see the majority has problems in following up the level which I should train, then I'm slowing down and I say, okay, then I leave one chapter out. So, but I have more time to explain because everyone is important at the end. Uh, this is this is another aspect which a trainer should definitely consider. Another one is keep the training as engaged as possible, and I'm entertaining people. So what happened is a couple of weeks ago, I had my first speaker slot in the conference at Scottish Summit in Aberdeen. So the very first time, I was nervous like hell. Everyone was just telling me, "No, you don't look normal." I said, "Yeah, outside, but inside, you don't know how that really looked like." And then I had my moment, and of course, when I demonstrated something, something went wrong. And in that room, a few MVPs are sitting like, I'm like, oh, damn. Everything goes wrong now and so on. And what happens is, which I have just trained the last 5 years, is I'm getting very chatty and I'm entertaining people while I'm trying to distract them, while I'm trying to fix everything. So I was nervous, but I was, entertaining the people. And at the end, people just told me they felt entertained. So, I mean, Jonas Rapp, for example, an awesome, exceptional MVP just came to me and said, at the end, it's important that you entertain the people. And that's the same in the training as well. Sometimes you have a loading screen from a Power App, from a solution, and open a Power App in a trial environment. It takes felt like half an hour till something is open. Then I start also doing something like singing and so on, and telling everyone my computer is so slow, I want to throw it out of the window or something like this. And at the end, we get over time, and the people just feeling also entertained because we are mostly doing the training virtually. It's completely different as you're in the same room because then you have eye contact and you can get closer to the people and feel more connected. In virtual times, you feel some kind of disconnected. And that's why it's more important to give the people all the time the feeling you're not alone on this. You're allowed to struggle, and you can ask any kind of question, even if it feels like the most stupid question in the world, because there are no stupid questions. There are only stupid answers which just come from me, and I have to bite on my tongue that I'm not using my sarcasm sometimes or my irony. But these are the most important aspects. And at the end, what I'm also not doing is I'm not micromanaging people. So I give them the feeling of you're grown up, you can do whatever you want. If you don't want to turn on your camera, it's on your own. If you turn it up, then it's nice. But if you feel not well by doing this, then obviously it's you then turn it off if you're feeling much better. And this is what Angelique just told me of the training. She have never seen such kind of a training before. So usually people asking turn on the camera. Usually people asking all the time, be here, answer the question. And sometimes I'm sending also people away from training if they don't feel well, because I always say you can watch the video afterwards. If you don't feel well, it's just training. This is the only time in your career, more or less, in a customer project, you have always pressure. You have to be there. But here, you can allow yourself maybe a little break if that helps you to recover and you come back next day, in a better position, in a better condition. And that doesn't sound like that I'm sending out everyone home and all that kind of stuff. That happened rarely, but these kind of things at the end, Angelique came to me. I've never seen someone like caring in our company like this. And then she was very persistent in dragging me into the community. And at the end, I end here in this interview. Otherwise, we wouldn't have do this.
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah. Bulent, what kind of why do you enjoy training so much? Like why do you enjoy building others up, helping them learn, helping them um, make themselves more valuable, as we were kind of talking about being valuable earlier? Like what is it about this role that you find so enjoyable and fulfilling?
I think I've just discovered that long time ago, that building something up, a community, a friendship, and so on, gives you so much joy. So I'm working now since over 20 years in the industry, and I just not started with Avanade, I started with another company, and as a developer. And that was a German company, around 3,000 employees. And when I was sitting there with 6 developers in a room, in the first 3 months, we have barely spoken. It was like you just going in and everyone was hiding behind his screen, and I'm talking about times where we didn't have flat screen. There was really that huge monitors which was so big as my printer or something like this. And I have also someone who was responsible for me as a buddy but never spoke with me. And I found that very confusing, like why are we not speaking? And when I tried to make the communication, people didn't react it. So I don't know how I managed that at the end, but at the end I told them, how about that we just eating something like kebab, for example, all together. My Turkish roots, and I just invite you and so on as a group, and we go out in the lunch break, and then we make it somehow a tradition. Then every Thursday we just went out and we're eating something Turkish. And then suddenly it lightened up. And there was also a young man in my age, and he came later to me. He was also not talking to me. He was like adjusted himself and not talking. He told me later, when we both got fired, by the way. That's the fun part of that, but had nothing to do with this. That there was a different economy situation during these times when everyone was on the stock market, and then suddenly find out, oh, this company is not that worse as it should be. And then he told me that you are the guy who just make it happen. I was sitting 3 months in this office and no one was talking, and you were the one who at the end created that friendship. And what happened is something like, if you had a problem as a developer, then suddenly people started helping you. Hey, let's look over together, and then you found a solution much much faster. And the internet in 2001 was not that good as today, with finding sources to solve your situation, your problems. And this is where I found out the very first time that if you just engage a little bit and build a community, that you can also infect others, and then they're more friendly and they come now with a smile to the office. It was completely different before. And I had further examples how I just found it out here in Avanade in my beginning as well. So I had some knowledge and I saw people really struggling and they got the task, you have to do this. I read in your CV, you can do this. So why can't you do this? And they were sitting in the corner, were completely desperate. So if you give them a little push, how to do this, it's helpful for them, and that makes me happy on the one hand, but on the other hand, you're talking to each other and you're building something up. And this guy I just mentioned in the last sentence, he became one of my best friends now, and you can't become good friends if you not talk to each other. So that doesn't help everyone, of course. That doesn't mean that everyone is now becoming my friend and all that kind of stuff. And sometimes I don't see anyone again of the people who have been in training, but that's not my. I always see myself as I'm part of your life for a moment, and maybe it's longer, maybe it's not longer. But if I can help you, then that's great. That's me. I can't help. I'm sorry.
That's great. No, you're all good. That's awesome. I also wanted to ask you again another question related to training. Um, what kind of what kind of trends do you see? Not so much in the things that you're training on, but like what's like a trend that you're seeing in like how you teach or how people being trained are like changing how they're receiving information, I guess. Does that make sense? Like if you were to train somebody how training happened 10 years ago, I guess I don't think it would be as effective as, you know, training them like maybe how you would today. So I guess what are some more trends you see in training itself, and how are you preparing to adapt to these changes?
Different variables here, which you can just talk about. So first of all, the landscape of training people has changed, especially thanks to COVID. It have been turned more to virtual training. It was before. So personally, it was in-person training, and I like the in-person training much more. But putting all in the room, and they come maybe from locations which are not that close, maybe a little bit more far away, and then there are costs, for hotels, for the journey, for the traveling, and everything has changed now. Now everything gone virtually, but that also with we have now better internet connections as we had before. We have better Wi-Fi's, we have better computers now, better cameras, where and sometimes it's even, you have, that headset you just have, like Meta or Meta Quest and all that kind of stuff. So that feels like a little bit you are in the same room. I can't imagine that I can wear that device for 10 hours on my head. I think afterward, I'm always with that 3D glasses in cinema movies. I just want to throw that kind of way as fast as possible. What I think is important, what has changed beside this modality is also the way of learning is been so easy and mostly so free as it has never been before. Getting training materials 10 years ago was a bit more expensive, and even 20 years before. When I wrote with my colleagues my first thesis, where we just had a computer and an ESDN card and tried to make this voice telephony, which is currently everyone is now it's a normal thing integrated in our lives. But 1997, no, not in the 2000 years, that wasn't a thing really. So, and a friend of mine had just found a really bad and dirty written documentation in a forum in somewhere in Portugal, and needed to let that translate so we can read what it was about. Today, that kind of knowledge is accessible everywhere, and you have MVPs you can just ask maybe, or you can other kind of sources where you can get this kind of knowledge. So that was not every time the case, and then now with a new technology, which is not that new, but it seems like new with generative AI. Previously, you just Googled something or Binged, depends on which company you're just working, and then try to find solutions. And now generative AI just generates you the answers. You just ask, and you don't even have to browse through websites to find something. So the kind of accessing knowledge has changed, and also we accessing knowledge also by our smartphones, right? So you're sitting in a tram to work and you do all the time look into your smartphone. If it's a good thing or not, that is discussable, but you accessing that kind of knowledge, and we're working in the Microsoft space and we're getting so much knowledge at the moment, right? So if I would have, subscribed to so many people on LinkedIn, I'm pretty sure I would miss information. So for sure. So the FOMO is then really real. But these are the aspects which I would just say this has changed, compared to the previous year. But there's a huge danger that you get overloaded with the amount of data, amount of information being processed. That's why I also doing this newsletter as well. The newsletter has been invented not because I just wanted to create a newsletter, because I'm not really a fan of writing, um, but it has been because I needed information to put up together a training course at Avanade. That was my intention, why I firstly started in the community to search for information. That I'm now staying here and contributing, that wasn't the plan before. And the newsletter was like, okay, when I have just collected something, then I can give it to others back. And I thought if 20 people can benefit from then it's okay. That it comes to that huge number is that wasn't planned by me. Lots of things which I'm doing is not planned, so it's mostly surprising me.
Yeah, I'd love to talk more about this newsletter. So I want to, I guess, give you the floor and pitch it and talk what it's about. But I mean, I guess let me first start there to give the viewer any context in case they aren't familiar with it. So like what's the newsletter, and I don't know, maybe some more of the story of how and why you started it and why you've let me stop there before I ask too many questions in a row. Go ahead.
So I needed the source to learn more about Copilot Studio. That's it. Because Copilot Studio is it's not only a hype, it's real. So it's that tool what Microsoft just places. At that tool, you can manipulate agents. Now I have to say agents because a couple of days ago it was still copilots, but now it's agents now. Again, a shift in terminology. And there was nothing similar to this what I have created. So, and because I was just looking for this. So, if people were talking about Copilot, there's a lot of Copilot newsletters there, but not specifically Copilot Studio, which I was just looking for. So, and it wasn't my idea just to create someone because, as I said, I'm not a really fan of writing, but I was like, okay, there's nothing there, but I have already my list here on my OneNote filled up and so on. So it would be a pity if I would not share that because this is valuable information. So, and then one night I just have created this one, and but what then happened was crazy. So I just have published this one. I even don't know what the first issue was, how I just created this one. But my idea was make information accessible to everyone in an easy way. Mostly these are videos because from videos you can learn much because you see then in which button you need to click, and it's much more better as a written one because the written text mostly are text and no pictures there. And then what happened in this night is I said if 20 reads this, I'm happy. So then I've done my duty. But already in that first hours, over 30 people have subscribed. So and then this went like crazy. In the first 10 editions, we had then also had 1,000 subscribers there, which I think I went, wow, okay. Now the people are enough of that. That should can't continue like this. There must be a stop. But it continues and continues like this. And um, but at the end, it's not my goal just to see how this climbs up and all that kind of stuff. For example, today, the newsletter I published a little bit later, as usually. I'm usually publishing at 7 a.m. European time. But yesterday, because of work, I just went very late to bed, and my wife is a bit sick, and my son as well, and didn't sleep. And I said at the end, today I can't do this. I will do it tomorrow in the morning somewhere. And then I have just went through that Ignite list and I said, wow, that's a lot. It will take a little bit longer today. And have gone through this. So before I started work, I had this one, but I didn't click on submit because I just wanted to proofread that first. And then in the break, I did. And then suddenly people say, wow, that's long. That's mostly what people saying. There's so many people sharing about Copilot Studio, but it's just not consolidated, right? And I'm happy if I can put this all together. So because I'm a Copilot more or less. Yeah, I'm saving people time to read this, and uh, then they see this and they can see what kind of update is, and they don't need to search the whole internet for that. And that's what people interest. They can watch, and if people are not interested, then they just acknowledge that and just move over. Yeah, and I'm not expecting anything, but it helps obviously if people say at the end, "Thank you for doing this," because that's always that kind of motivation which we all like and motivates us to continue.
Yeah. So excuse my ignorance, I guess, on this, but
Sure.
so I know you publish your content onto LinkedIn, your newsletter.
Yeah.
Is it also like an email list, or like what all, like logistically, how does it work? Say I was interested in getting involved or wanted to subscribe, like where slash how would I do that? What are the formats? What can I expect from a newsletter for next week?
Yeah. So first of all, the format was for me clearly that I needed just an easy editor for me where I can just drop more or less all the YouTube links and all the blog posts, etc. For me, LinkedIn is the best source because X is not really a good source anymore, right? And everyone just announcing I'm just going out to Blue Sky or somewhere else. And you can search for with Google or with Copilot for any kind of other sources, but I want to keep it as simple as possible. And LinkedIn is a good source because lots of people in the community sharing their content there. Then the YouTube is a good channel where lots of people are sharing there. So these are my both main drivers. And sometimes I'm happy if people, making me aware and sending me something, and then I can just also acknowledge this as well. So the idea is obviously to keep it as simple as possible, and the LinkedIn newsletter had for me the best way of keep it simple. So if I would have started on my own blog and so on, I have found that kind of creating things that is not that easy and didn't want to search much more, and everyone is already on LinkedIn. So and if you share that with LinkedIn, it automatically also sends out an email. So, and registering is much easier on LinkedIn because people are not willing to register, for example, on your own website and so on, which is not my intention. My intention is how can I reach people best, and majority is on LinkedIn. Then I share it from there.
Yeah.
That was the intention to do it from there.
That's awesome. I love it. I will be sure to have a link to your newsletter in the description down below for people to go and click on and subscribe to. I don't know
Thank
if
you.
you've I don't of course I don't know if you have anything else to add there. I'd love to transition us to the after hours happy hour segment of the show where we can just continue to hang out, let our personalities shine through. When I kind of asked you what are your hobbies, what are you passionate about, you said being a dad, which I think is super admirable. That's awesome. You're a proud dad. I want to be respectful and I mean share as much as you want regarding there, but like I am not a dad at this point in time. What give me some advice. What's the dad wisdom? Why do you love being a dad so much? And things.
I'm not sure if that's the case for everyone, but it was the case for me every time that I just wanted to have children because I played with children all the time, and then finally I have an excuse to be silly because then at least that I can say, "Hey, sorry, my son wanted to that I'm silly," So it's a good excuse, and then you finally can also sit, on the playground without, being arrested by the police. Because nowadays that's the case here in Germany. If you sit as a lone man on in the park, then people think like, oh, he's behind my children, and then phoning and so on. So at least the people are not just trying to arrest me because they see I have a kid. But just kidding aside, it was that, to be honest, it was one of my life goals to be a dad, and this is still the case. Even it's sometimes very hard because after 2 years they're becoming an own will and not every time doing what you want. They only want to do what they want. That ends up in very long nights, and he doesn't want to sleep. He doesn't want to go to don't want to eat and all that kind of stuff. And you have lots of discussions then. And but at the end, just to see how my son Milan is growing up is one of the best things ever. And this COVID thing, how bad this everything around this is one of the best things what happened personally to me, because then I could stay at home and can watch growing him from the beginning. Because as a consultant, usually I was away for minimum 3 days or 5 days, and I didn't want to grow up, see my son growing up from somewhere else. And seeing all that faces in the life, like he first time get his teeth, a very horrible experience, because he's just crying, you can't do anything against that. Or he's like crawling, or it's the first time he's walking without any help and speaking, and then he's never stopping speaking again. These are kind of ways of how it makes fun. And now he's also so grown up. Now I can throw him from left to right without any problem. We can wrestle a little bit, and he's interested in technique like me. So there's that famous Hanover Fair here in my city where I'm living, where even Microsoft is just coming here. So usually we have to go to the US side, but they're coming here. And on the last day, daycare closed so early, and I didn't know what to do. And I said, "Okay, I take you there." And he loved it so much to see all the technologies and was interested with his 4 years old. Everyone, when I was talking there, was like, "Wow, your son is really interested in technology and all that kind of stuff." And sharing this kind of things with him and seeing, how he's been getting smart and how he's just doing things and learning things is it's the same like in the community. I have the same passion for the people in the community like for my own son, and that makes me happy and proud. You have got me on a good mood. So sometimes he's
That's
very annoying, and not
yeah.
doing anything what I tell him to do, but that's also part of the process, right? So in that case, this is good, and I can only encourage. This is for me personally the best feeling. Everyone who will get kids will at the end will mostly say, "I'm very proud of what I got," and that's what I say. That's the best thing ever. What happened to me.
Yeah. I feel like being around 4 years old or 4, 5, 6, 7, those are like the fun ages, in my opinion. Like that's where I I'm not necessarily a big fan of like toddlers or babies. It's funny, my wife loves like babysitting or nannying babies. I'm not a fan. Sorry to all my friends out there who have young kids. Your kids are amazing, but yeah, I enjoy like once they kind of get to that age where yeah you can kind of piece together a conversation with them or mess around or wrestle a little bit. Just where they start to feel more like I don't know like humans I guess not so much like little babies. So that's super cool. I can only imagine that that's a super fun season of life and everything. So that's super awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And I think that being a mom or a dad is awesome. I don't think any of us, most people would not be where they are without their parents. And I can definitely say that's true for me as well. So, Bülent, man, thank you so much for being here and coming on and sharing your expertise. I always say connecting with people is the best part. Thank you for being here. If people were positively impacted by anything you had to say or the conversation and wanted to connect with you, what would be the best way to reach out to you?
Just say hi on LinkedIn. I think that's the best way. Where I'm very active on LinkedIn, and I'm happy about everyone who connects with me, even if the people maybe mostly because of technology questions. But if you only just say hi, that's also cool enough, I would say. So say just hi or aloha, like I tend to say.
Yeah, awesome. That's great, and that's how we met as well. So I can definitely encourage anybody listening. I'll be sure to link your LinkedIn down in the description down below.
Thank you.
So,
Awesome.
absolutely. Thank you to you for sticking to the end of the video. My name is Griffin Lickfeld, the host of the Citizen Developer channel, and I'm excited to connect with you in the next one.